them right now that this is not a election meeting, this is not a nomination meeting, this is not an appeal meeting, this is an information session on the Magical and Real Property Act, the Election Act, and the Plows and Plows and the Lake City Trust. These are presentations we're going to have. I just wanted to let you know if this meeting becomes unruly, I'm going to shut it down. Thank you very much. So anyways, what are the rules? And we're going to have opening comments by Chief Wapass, and after that, we're going to have a presentation by Thunderchild Law on the Matrimonial Real Property Act. And after that, there's going to be a presentation on the Election Act by a Pritchard Law Firm. And after that, we'll read a Plows and Plows, and there will be an opening comment by the portfolio concert. And after that will be the Lake City Trust. And then I'm just going to give some notices when the ratification vote will be, which will be January 8th. And the advance poll will be tonight from 7 to 9 p.m. And then we'll have the closing prayer. So with that, I'd like to call out the portfolio holders, Mel Thunderchild and John Moon.
Thank you, Linda. Come on, get here. I also want to thank the people for being here. I know it's a busy day. Christmas is here. Another woman, harmonia. I think I guess message called by some elders. If it's what had happened, it's clear what had happened in Edmonton last night. And the message is that you guys need to take control of the meetings more. You're putting a lot of stress on our elders. Children as well that are there, they're getting scared. That's not our way. And that's the message I was given. I don't want to mention the elder's name. Elder is from here in Thunderchild, but she wanted me to say that today to remind everybody to be very respectful. Because I know, this is an opportunity that we give me. Maybe I don't get you wrong, that's your right to ask all these questions, but in a respectful way, as well, our presenter, the chair as well, it has to be respectful as well. So with that, I wanted to also share with you another portfolio holder, John Moon. There was a little incident last night that happened in Edmonton after the meeting, where he could not be here today. We had a whole slip, fall, and he ended up in the hospital. So he apologized, but this is me that he couldn't be here today to come and be a part of this. There's a good chance he may need a trooper, he might show up, but again, he ended up in the hospital this morning, and we hope he gets a speedy recovery. So he won't be here today to make opening comments, but again, if some let's have a good meeting today, and I'm going to tell you. Hi guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thunderchild. Now, we like to call Chief Wapass to make some opening comments to this information session.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to our elders who have opened up our session here. It's supposed to be, something that we should be celebrating. That our community was received an offer from Canada. Because there are many other communities that are waiting to be accepted for their offer. But over this last couple of days and this last little while, I get this feeling that, this process has to be made dirty. I don't feel good about the process. Even though we've been open, we've been transparent, we put everything on the website, we did everything that we could possibly do as chief and council. Chippewa, chief and council's hiding this, chief and council's hiding that. And we have people that are going from session to session, spreading their propaganda. When we have not told people how to vote, our job is to inform people, for them to come and hear the truth of what's happening here. I don't think it's proper to go from one city to the next and go convince people, or try to convince people here and there. So today, for me, as far as I'm concerned, those people that have spoken in Saskatoon and Edmonton have said more than enough. It's time to listen. The other is that I stayed quiet yesterday. And I've heard a lot. There was a question, and it's a burning question. What about young Chippewa? Do they have a claim? We have a band member that's here who's also a counselor of young Chippewa. And they have their claim. We belong to one band. We don't belong to two bands. So what happens to Thunderchild then? And Maurice Law represents young Chippewa and they represent Thunderchild. So when they get their money, how's Thunderchild treated? Because when we get our money, I bet you they're going to want their PCD. Right? These are the questions. Do they have a claim? Yes. Who's representing them? Maurice Law. Right? I have the responsibility as the chief of Thunderchild to represent the interests of Thunderchild First Nation and to ensure that I maximize the benefit to our members. Anybody can tell you the history. The Walpass family come from a band called Napahes. The second person on that treaty paid us is light hair. Was South Salon, Yellowhead. But we made the decision to belong to Thunderchild First Nation and only Thunderchild First Nation. We didn't pursue another claim. And we're not pursuing another claim. Although we have our own treaty payments. So our loyalty, our allegiance, is the Thunderchild First Nation and Thunderchild First Nation only. So today, there's been a lot of questions. And it's been ugly. And it doesn't have to get like that. It doesn't have to be like that. And it's always different when we come home to the reserve. That it's more quarterly, it's more orderly, and there's more respect. So Madam Chair, you have a huge responsibility today. And if people are going to get out of line, ask the security to escort them home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Wapas. Now we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation on the natural property by Thunderchild Law. Sorry, Mike. Mike, then where are you? Can you come right over?
You are. Good afternoon, Ms. James from Thunderchild, and I'm still registered in Thunderchild because there is no stone wall. It's not another court, common court is used. But there is going to be a chance where people can make a choice, stay in Thunderchild or otherwise so they know. But it won't be 2 years before going to court, either the court will decide to be a reserve or not. But the government sold that reserve over there, so we know about there. And those people were stopped out over there. And they moved to Philippines, Homemaker, Sweetgrass, and Thunderchild. There were 17 band members from Stony Knoll that came to Thunderchild. And then when you get PLE, shortfall acres, Thunderchild, Stony Knoll members that are living in Thunderchild and being band members, got the monies to spend at PLE. So the people here, we've got 17 families of people that live here. I can say that lawyers, they have a choice to stay here or if they want to go and invest in this earth. You just can't force people out if they don't want to. A lot of people are going to stay here because they have roots and they have relatives here. Stanwater family is hiring and passing. Lots of people. You've enjoyed, you know, being managers here over here. It's the government that put the land on reserve. And over most of 50 years, I've been in the council trying to get that back. But the thing is, we still get the land back and courts and stuff like that. Like we have an agreement with the James Nation, the chief of Thunderchild, the land council, and something on here. And they agreed to, when the Senate over there, they gave $40 million. Our names in Stony Knoll that are living in Thunderchild were calculated in the sort of all acres. That's how we got that $40 million. You know, what you're here, what your people are saying here is not true, but they don't have facts. People have a choice where they want to stay. You can't put people out of here if they don't want to go. There's going to be their choice if they stay here or not. There's people from Little Pine, Homemaker, Sweetgrass, and Pipeline. That's where these products can see everything. You know, this whole thing when attacking the Angus family is not right. We're not the only ones that, you know, are descendants from there. Every little man is a family baby in BC. That's where the Deduces family come from. And my mother was a Deduces. But my grandfather came from Beardy. His good brother was the first president in the rebellion in Australia. He moved to, he left Beardy and went to work in Belfast. And then he worked for his farmers for 17 years. And Thunderchild and most of the behaviors there, he used to go and play soccer over there, and he met his children, my great grandma. And they got married. And Chief Thunderchild invited him, they got a boat and stuff, and he became a Thunderchild family. No one of my past I knew that there was no home that was it was so over the years that Wapas are our relatives. Pete Wapas, Bill Wapas, was the first cousin to my dad. We didn't come here and come here and then, started creating trouble. We just lived here because we had nowhere else to go. here. We are treaty Thunderchild members. We can show you our treaty card that says members of Thunderchild Reserve. And we also in good standing members of Thunderchild Reserve. We work hard, we have leadership from the Stony Knoll, the guys in the Thunderchild Land Houses, different people. So you gotta think differently. People are just speaking up and not saying things right. They're half truth. It's not hard to get the truth. You know, there's a lot of people are my friends. They're kind of turning around and looking at me different now. What the hell? That's what they're told. We've got trouble here. No, we're not. We're just trying to correct things right. This whole idea that, that all, we have that, when Stony Knoll to Congo Reserve, there's 40 million coming to Thunderchild that they negotiated with Kate Sneaky and the council that's sitting here. We brought in more money than any other guy that came from different places. Those are the shots. So you can't be saying that, we're not members of the reserve, or we're not in the House of the Reserve. We have, and we did, and we still will do it, carry out and do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Angus. Go ahead, there's Sunshine Law, your next presentation by Eleanor Sunshine on national rights policy.
Good afternoon. I'm just going to sit and you just stand at each of the podium yeah, I'll just sit here. So I'm here, you can't see me, but I have to sit here so I can flip it to the next page. This act here is about protecting Thunderchild lands. It's about protecting Thunderchild people. And my mushum, Norman Sunchild, he always used to say, we all have to love each other. We all have to get along. We all are our family. So I agree, like all this fighting, it saddens me, when I came home in my 20s, like in my late teens, because I was part of the 60s group, I felt such love. And I got to know all of you in this room, all of you, and to see politics and fighting, and it's not good. That's what the government wants. They want us to fight. They want us to fight. So they can keep taking our rights away. So they can keep killing our women. So they can keep killing us. Keep taking our lands. So let's not fight. Let's not fight. It's Christmas. And there's a lot of people losing loved ones right now. Yeah, I have a client who I lost, and I'm sad about that. I've heard a lot of people's stories in the work that I've done in residential school and day school. And I know the trauma that impacted our families. We see it. We see it when we fight. It's still there. So we gotta be there for each other. A lot of us are grieving. A lot of deaths in our communities, all over Canada, all over Saskatchewan, all the time. I just had to say that. So thank you. This act here, it is about protecting Thunderchild. And I'll talk fast, I'm just trying not to catch us right at the very. So the purpose of the Matrimonial Property Act is about occupation and possession of a family home. It regards the death of a spouse or common law partner, a emergency protection orders, family violence definition, responsibilities of tribunal. And the purpose of the act is addressing family law property matters on First Nation reserves, including the occupation and possession of family homes, division of any interests or rights and protection of the integrity of Thunderchild's territories and resources, protection of the women, elders, and the children. It's to protect the community from drug dealers, sexual predators, gangs, victims of domestic violence and suicide prevention. And those are like the real issues, you know, the day-to-day issues that we face that unfortunately across Indian country, that's what our communities are facing, especially with the new drugs. It's a means to resolve conflicts, and it recognizes traditional laws. Occupation and possession of family home, it applies upon the breakdown of a relationship. Application can be made by a spouse, common law partner, or peace officer to grant exclusive occupation of the home. Non-citizens won't have any right or interest in the family home on Thunderchild territories unless they are granted a lease by the council. They must consider the following: the best interest of children who reside in the family home, the terms of any agreements between spouses or common law partners, the collective interests of Thunderchild citizens, customs, and traditional laws, the length of cohabitation of spouses or common law partners, any financial or medical conditions. And regarding that occupation and possession of family homes, these are the following considerations: available of other suitable accommodations on Thunderchild land, any existing orders made by the court, that would be family court or the tribunal, family violence or psychological abuse of any resident of the family home. Also, other considerations are any sort of exceptional circumstances, the interests of elderly or persons with disabilities who reside in the home, third-party interests in the family home aside from the spouses or common law partners, and anyone who receives a copy of the application who would be parents. The death of a spouse or common law partner does not impact Thunderchild citizens. It doesn't apply to citizens. This is about non-citizens. Occupation does not include custom-held land. Council has the discretion to extend the occupation beyond the 180 days. Non-citizens are First Nations who are the primary caregivers to a child. Citizens may occupy the family home and custom-held land until the youngest child reaches the age of 18, and that's all dependent on circumstances. Because, such as this, in cases where family law violence has occurred or a spouse is a gang member engaged in illegal activity, a 90-day interim order may be granted by the Justice of the Peace. And then these are the sorts of orders that they can provide: exclusive occupation. The RCMP or peace officer may evict a spouse or common law partner or any specified person from a family home and land. The RCMP or peace officer authorized to accompany and supervise the removal of evicted persons, that should say, belongings. In extraordinary circumstances, banishment is a remedy. That was something that was traditional as well. Emergency protection orders. Any person in favor or against an emergency protection order may apply to have the order varied or revoked within 21 days of the receipt of the notice of the order, anytime there is a material change in circumstances. And this act also deals quite a bit with family violence, the situation of family violence, which is the intentional application of force, intentional or reckless acts or omissions that cause bodily harm or damage to property, intentional recklessness or a threatening act or omission that causes a reasonable fear of bodily harm or damage to property, sexual assault, abuse, threat, or either, forcible confinement, criminal harassment, involvement in gangs, or dealing of illicit drugs. The tribunal's responsibility in emergency protection is to review the order within 3 working days. confirm there is sufficient evidence to support the justice of the peace making the order, direct a rehearing of the matter by the tribunal where there is insufficient evidence to support the order, give notice of the decision to the parties or persons included, approval of an order deems it to be an order of the tribunal, and the tribunal may vary, revoke, or extend an order of finance days. And that's an overview of the Thunderchild Real Matrimonial Property Act. And if there's any questions, my contact information is there. I can't really read it, but it's eleanor@sunchildlaw.com. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Eleanor. I think we're going to turn it over to, let's give her a hand first. Thank you. The president is going to please here.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. Everyone else it's a big story. Thunderchild is one of Thunderchild awesome. That one man after about British Partner, they give it up now for dollars. We are sure they give me a age, it's oak cream. On the development of water, yes, woman. Ecco, mi non ascoltano che la stanza di suoi perché te che stai insegnando no we go on. Testamento c'è. The relationship danse cattolica is about na bella. Come si suol dire, scomi capito si va in gozo che cosa è la wasta. Cosa che ti magari per fare che paksema ci porto, ma no a morte che masna qui a suona. Ai wa machiki bana scawe ispai di sini what's happening? There's some stuff that is not normal that happens at homes every time. Ecco per che Pitaheo, Moniala, Riasologongo. Ecco per di Tosama, that's someone that guy basically been there the hill. Dancer. Guys have to start on Moniala Riasolo. Dancer guys sit down. Nella demonia. Ecco, insomma, come si dice, come ti vai? Ti sta battendo, cacchino, hasta un umano. Apa nama, apa itu pun nanti tos. Kami kalau sekolah kena ada nanti masalah apa nama. They looked at those things, the relationships, and how can our home function within the boundaries of law? And so much. That's the big reward. Ecco, torna di Masmana, cacchio, noi cosa ne vediamo? Ecco allora, capisco che ho insomma, ho piccolo allora. Non sanno come. E poi mi fanno vedere che il tipo è lungo. O che stanno others. E che ti vede da me che non stavo. Cacchio, Jimmy. In dove la mio. Ai smina non che si nasce. Ai fanno. Ecco che poi sono tanti che te no tanti che sui film, che chiamamo i most home. Questo è il musica. E come la musica. Ecco che non ci patano. E che nessuno. Che spendi pataya também que a só não vai lá, I want we saw a staff. They said amendments. It's not a negative thing. Kasoha is to make it stronger. That's what that means. You have to understand your creed properly. And you're asking, what is Harrison talking about? Well, I've been the government president for the provincial federal governments and the federation for the last 30 years, and I've worked under national chiefs and the provincial chiefs. I've worked with the provincial and federal governments. And I'm also with the council here. I'm not 70 years old, and that's my mushroom. Where is he now? We're making a mushroom disappear. Many are still trying to do that. That was my grandpa. And all these words that I'm sharing with you, I didn't learn it from books. I didn't learn it somebody else, I went with my dad who shared the story of Chief Thunderchild. And that is what I'm sharing with you. And the words of the elders that we are making references to. And the basis and foundation, and the Gabatita to big score like there, da puede win. You know what that means? Truth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thunderchild. So we'll take a couple of questions on Matrimonial Real Property Act right now, Thunderchild law and your colleagues here. Yes? We'll just be okay, so we'll take a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand.
Hello? I don't really have a question, but I just want to speak on the Matrimonial Property Act itself. I know it's something very important for our reserve, because right now I see a lot of family homes that aren't family homes. There's single men living in them. Sometimes they're drug dealers, and there's a lot to prove that, and I can't, point out names, but it comes to the point where children are not living in their family homes, their original homes. Not only that, they don't even have single rooms to live in. And single men are living in houses alone, big houses. And that's why it's important for this act in Thunderchild right now. Sometimes there's elders, like illegal activity with elder homes, and elders are taken away, there's no respect for elders in their own homes. So this is kind of what this act talks about it's for the protection of the children. So if there's anything happens, if anything happens within a home, it's going to be in the best interest of the children. And I think that's important because our kids need nurturing homes. They need to be loved. They need food to come home to. They need warm beds. They need to be in comfort, especially with their moms. Even if it's a dad, I know there's a lot of dads that are with their children. But the bottom line is the children. Whoever takes care of those children, that's who needs to be in a home with them, because those kids need loving, they need to be nurtured. If you see a lot of kids that go to school hungry, sometimes they go through abuse, they don't want to speak about it. There's a lot of issues, so I guess I'm endorsing it, because I think it's important. I'm a mom, I'm with my children all the time, I have them with me. And I just can't see anything, I can't leave them anywhere because of that thought in my head, I don't know, I worry about them all the time. I only trust a handful of people. So, we need to give our children homes again. So, I just want to speak on the act itself, and, those are my views. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there any other questions here? Just raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you very much, Thunderchild Law. We will go next.
I have to go to my son's Christmas concert at 7 because children are important. So I wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank you for letting me speak to you. I can't shake everyone's hand, so I'm gonna thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that we're going to change the agenda around. We're going to talk about the culture health presentation and then the legacy trust, because I think the lawyer's help will meet soon, right? Am I correct? Okay, so we'll call up Maurice Long to give an overview of the Plows and Plows, and after that they'll do the legacy trust. So, you're on.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Carey. I'm here with my colleagues Logan Newlove and Blair Mahan from Royce Law. So we acted as legal counsel to the nation on your council platform. I'd like to begin by just thanking everybody for inviting us to the nation today to make this presentation. Thank you for this is the third day that we've done this presentation, and typically I go on fairly long. But as was mentioned before, we unfortunately have to get back to catch a plane so we can get to Calgary this evening. So I'm going to shorten my presentation a bit and focus on the settlement agreement itself. I'm happy to discuss anything related to the claim and the history, but having watched the last couple of days, where most of the questions are really about the agreement, about what's happening with respect to that agreement. So what the claim is about, I think, is probably fairly clear and familiar to everyone. In the text of Treaty 6, which is up there, the Crown had an obligation to provide all signatories with cows and plows. The cows and plows were not ceremonial, they were to achieve a purpose. And that purpose was to facilitate a transition to an agricultural economy. There were devastating impacts in famine and disease, the destruction of bison herds, and a bunch of white settlers were moving up to the Treaty 6 territory. So the need to ensure that there was a robust and sustainable new economy was one of the key, was largely the key discussion during treaty negotiations in 1876. So it results in this clause, and this clause is very similar to what you find in between 4, 5, 7, 8, not a 9. 9 is the only number treaty that doesn't have any cows and plows provision. Treaty 10 has a similar clause. Treaty 1 and 2 is not written in the treaties, but it's in what's called the outside promise. But basically, the purpose of the promise to provide a transition to an agricultural economy was to be achieved by Canada providing those things. Now, they never did. And that's the basis of the claim. So, Thunderchild has filed a claim under the specific claims process with the Government of Canada because the Government of Canada never provided the council files like it was supposed to in the treaty. Now, Thunderchild's claim was filed in 2020, but it has moved as part of a larger process as well. There were several council files claims that had gone to the tribunal. Originally, those claims were to Treaty 8. The first would have been filed in 2013. Those claims have been resolved. All the Treaty 8 House and Plows claims were ultimately resolved. Now, when you file a claim, you have to wait 3 years for Canada to respond to you. When Canada provides its response, they either say, yes, we want to negotiate, or no, we don't. And the first Treaty 6 claim for cows and plows that Canada ever offered to negotiate was actually filed by Red Pheasant, and it was filed sometime in the early 2010s. Now, with that claim, I had the good fortune of being their lawyer as well. And we negotiated a good faith for a couple of years. This followed right on the conclusion of what happened in Treaty 8, so it seemed like there was a fairly clear path forward. But that wasn't the case. Ultimately, negotiations broke down after 2 years. We found ourselves at the tribunal, and we were right on the precipice of going to a final trial on the matter. By the time the Government of Canada, appreciating that it was going to lose that trial, but forcing us to go every step of the way despite all sorts of technical applications as we went. Ultimately, they turned around and said they'd like to provide us a. So, it was really through that process, through a series of lawsuits, and that was really Treaty 6 claim before the tribunal even. Canada did take a position in those claims that they had no obligation, no outstanding obligation to provide any counsel. Now, it never actually went to trial because what Canada did is they got a mandate to settle, which was based on the studies that we had done previously. It's consistent with Treaty 8, consistent with Treaty 10 settlements we may have heard about. But really what Canada is proposing to do is to settle your claim for $155.4 million. And what that compensation is based on is what would it cost to fulfill that promise today in 2023. So if the promise was to provide all the things that would be necessary to start an agricultural operation, well, what would that cost today? And there was a study done by a fellow named Bob Thompson that underlined all those Treaty 8 settlements. Ultimately, we rehired Bob, got out of retirement to do the Treaty 6 study as well. And at the end of the day, that's what Canada's offer is based consistent with all the other housing funds claims we've heard of that have been settled and that will be settled. So, when we look at the actual agreement itself, there's some very important key clauses in there. And it really begins on that first page in what's called the preamble. Now, you'll notice that this clause E here is also repeated again in section 14. It's on the first page because it is so foundational and so important to what we're doing. So, what this says, that this agreement shall not be construed so as to abrogate, derogate, or otherwise alter in any way the existing original and treaty rights of the First Nations recognized and confirmed by Treaty 6 and Section 35 of the Constitution. Specific claims, which is what this is, cannot change treaty rights. They could file a claim as a specific claim to change treaty rights. Canada can use a settlement agreement based on a specific claim that was filed and pursued to alter a treaty. So that's why this is in the document in two places. It's really to reinforce that. This settlement, if accepted to the nation, will conclude your lawsuit. The lawsuit and the compensation, the damages that you suffered from Canada's failure to provide you with cows and plows from 1879 to the date of settlement. It has no forward-looking component to it. This is for your past damages that does not alter any treaty rights. Now, if that's ratified and voted on and approved by members, the claim will be settled, Canada will pay compensation, and you can't sue Canada again for the same thing. For its failure to provide cows and plows and your damages from 1879 up to 2023. But you can and are suing Canada in relation to a whole bunch of other. This doesn't affect those claims at all, and it doesn't affect your future claims. So when we go to some of the key aspects of the agreement, Article 2 defines the purpose of the agreement. And it's important, but it's also written in a fairly confusing way. Largely because we got into a huge fight with Canada as they tried to expand the scope of what was being settled in this plan. But really, if you look at Article 2.1 and 2.2, that's the key one. That's what defines the plan. What Canada is providing is what's called equitable compensation, which is a legal document to describe the type of damages that are being provided here. It's equitable compensation for Canada's failure to provide cows and plows from 1879, or I guess 1881 when the first survey would happen, up to 2023. It refers to all sorts of incidental other issues, but they're all tied back to that failure. All that is being settled here is a lawsuit in relation to Canada's failure to provide for cows and plows. So, that's what the purpose section is about. And if we go to section 3, it's the compensation section. The compensation section sets out what the nation would get out of the settlement in the event it's approved and ratified by members. What the nation would get out of the settlement is $155.4 million. It's fairly straightforward, but it's in many ways a key part of this agreement. And then Article 4, which is the release clause, is what Canada gets out of the agreement. What the release clause says is if this is acceptable to members, and the claim is ultimately settled, you cannot sue Canada again for the same claim. You could not sue Canada again for your damages arising from its failure to provide cows and plows from 1879 or 1881 through to 2023. But again, you can and are suing them for every other claim. And notice, it's not up on here, but at the end of the release clause, that's written in black and white there too. The nation still treats you and is in fact already pursuing many other claims against the government. But what happens if somebody did sue, again, for the same thing? That's covered in Article 5. It's called the indemnity clause. Now, the indemnity clause is fairly long, but it's not as complicated as it looks. The indemnity clause really just sets out a process for what happens if somebody did sue Canada again for the same thing. And what that process is Canada has an obligation to notify Thunderchild. Thunderchild can choose what you'd like to do about that. And in the event that, you can participate in the lawsuit or you can decline to participate in the lawsuit, Canada still has the right to defend itself. And if that ever actually happened and Canada settled that claim, then the end of that article explains that Canada could seek cost contributions from Thunderchild. Now, in my experience, I've never heard once of this ever happening. I think the likelihood of this occurring is extremely remote to the point where I don't think it has happened. However, it's a standard form in any document like this, in any settlement agreement, to ensure that there is a process that's fair to both parties. Go to the next section that we've got highlighted here, it's Article 7, which is ratification. Now, at the end of the day, majority rules on it. There's a core requirement that at least 25% of eligible voters cast votes, but only 50 plus 1 will carry the day. So I don't anticipate, and just having worked on a number of these things recently, I don't think you're going to have any trouble meeting the 25% threshold for voting. At the end of the day, it's majority rules. Does the nation want to accept the agreement, the trust agreement, or not? That's the question people are being asked to vote on in this particular issue. We go forward, jumping to Article 11. This is an extremely important clause that doesn't seem like it on the face of it. What this is in what's called a representation warranty section. Now, what a representation warranty is that the parties signing the document are stating in a legally binding way that certain things are true. It says Article 11.1c is actually 11.1a, but what this states is that by accepting this compensation, the First Nation represents and warrants, so it's making a legally binding declaration that it intends to use the compensation balance with a long-term investment and sustainable benefit of the First Nation, and shall take such actions as it deems necessary or advised to effect that intent. So to cut to the chase, why is that such an important point? Because this is basically the thing that stands in front of and prevents the full PCD. When it comes to paying out compensation, each nation, when you're settling any claim, is faced with the same question, right? How do we manage the needs of members today who suffer these damages with the needs of future generations? And thinking back to how that ties into the treaty, you know, the intention of the Council Panel is not just to provide some tools that would then not be used in the wrong way or be sold. It was to provide the means to transition to a sustainable economy, something that would grow for future generations, something that would continue to grow far into the future. In many ways, this compensation is intended to achieve that same result. But this is the section in the agreement where Canada is insisting on providing that direction. Now, what every nation does to achieve that is up to each nation. And here, you know, as you'll hear from your trustees later on, there's a proposal to put the money into trust, to fund a $25,000 per capita distribution, and to really access the highest quality possible investment manager so that every year your nation receives a return from this going forward. And that every year after this settlement happens, there is income being generated for your nation and for your members. The next important clause is Article 13, which is programs and services. Now this matters because, you know, there's always a fear, for a good reason, that Canada would hold the settlement against you. That Canada would say, well, we just paid you $155 million. We're not going to be funding all the other things that we already used to fund the country. They can't do that. And this is the clause that prevents them from being able to do that. Nothing in this settlement affects either your nation or any of your members from accessing any programs and services as though this settlement never happened. Canada is not allowed to do this. Article 14 is the same as where we started. Non-derogation clause. The text of the agreement. And again, what it says is that nothing in this agreement can alter, change, impact, or treaty rights in any way going forward. So with that, that's the rundown of the agreement. But I'm happy to answer some questions and go through that before I flip it over to my colleague.
Anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand. Mike is over there.
So this vote is so that the government will give Thunderchild money. This is what we're voting on.
That's correct. Yes, it is. And there's.
The community or the members have to vote yes in order for the money to come.
Correct.
Okay.
But what that question raises is a very important point that in my short presentation, I didn't touch on, which I need to. Which is what happens if you vote no. Right? If you vote yes, the agreement will be concluded. If the vote is no, and 50% plus one of the members reject Canada's proposal, you got a couple options. You can go to court, and you can try to sue them using the tribunal or the federal court, which is, for a number of reasons, not the right place to do that. Tribunal would be the right spot. They can only give you 150 though, even if you win, and that will take a couple of years. And you have to win. The other option, I guess, is you can go back and try to renegotiate, but there are, and I'm sure everybody's aware of this, a whole lot of these claims. Chances of that happening anytime soon is probably pretty remote, and the chance of getting anything higher, I think, is frankly, from my legal opinion, impossible. Because Canada's making consistent offers to each nation who's advanced one of these claims. So, again, thank you for reminding me of that, because it's a very important point of what's on the line. Yeah, did that help to clarify? Yeah. If you vote yes, the deal's approved. If you vote no, the deal's off the table.
Any other questions? Just raise your hand.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, my fellow band members, elders, leadership, our esteemed legal colleagues that are here today. Okay, I have a question. So you were part of this whole agreement process, correct?
What agreement process? The settlement agreement?
Writing this legacy trust.
We assisted in that, yes, we did. And you also had a series of other experts and advisors assist in the process.
Okay, but you facilitated this whole process.
We worked as part of a group of experts that we had to come up with this plan.
Okay. So in our packages, you listed the process, but there was other draft documents that were made, that were distributed from your office to leadership that indicate as part of the process that our money is going to be sent to Amtrust Europe Limited. Is that still going to happen?
Amtrust Europe Limited issued an insurance policy that allowed us to pursue this lawsuit without Thunderchild paying us to do it. So it ultimately provided the insurance package that if you lost this claim and we had to go to court, Amtrust would have covered all those costs. In the meantime, those costs were covered from a loan that was made based on that insurance policy. That's why the loan was available. So the nation didn't have to pay us to do the work as we went. So Amtrust gets its fees at the end of the day, yes.
Okay. So, another question. For the online voting that's listed here, that we are, or you are expecting the community members to participate in online voting, how is it, as a lawyer, you can facilitate that process when we haven't even voted if we want online voting, right? Because one feather, correct me if I'm wrong, our referendum officer, you're a lawyer to Maurice Law, right?
No, we don't work for one another. We don't have any business relationship with
You're
them.
the referendum officer, though?
No, those are my two colleagues from my firm.
Okay, so, okay, thank you for answering that. That clears up a little bit of confusion here. So, you've been listening to these proceedings here, Friday, pardon me, in Saskatoon and in Edmonton, and you've heard us question this process. And as a lawyer, in your legal opinion, is this legitimate to ask us to vote on something that we haven't even voted on, that we agreed to use? Because one feather will have access to all of our personal information, right? If you're going to use them for PCD payments and stuff in your contract, you mentioned that. Okay, so they're gonna have my personal information, my banking information, my children's birthdays and that. I didn't agree to have the nation share my personal information with one feather. Because we didn't even vote if we want online voting, but you're pushing it on the people. And a lot of people have issues with trying to register online voting, right? Their membership numbers weren't recognized. So, as you guys stated, you know, in Edmonton and in Saskatoon, that there's things that are wording and whatnot, things that, you know, glitches that obviously have to be worked out. But there's no set guidelines for the referendum officer to operate with? Because
There are.
no, let me finish please, sir. In this new proposed election act, that's where you're putting all of this. But that's not really a legal document. We didn't agree, we didn't vote to say, yes, we want online voting. We didn't agree to share personal information with one another. And obviously they have that because you're already making people vote online. In the referendum vote package, they're right on top, it says to register with one another. We didn't agree to that. So in your opinion, are these proceedings, are these proceedings legitimate, legal?
Yeah.
We're voting on a document, I mean, you're making us vote on a document that we didn't ratify. We should ratify it and agree, okay, let's do this, let's talk about it. Let's find the pros and the cons, not just go ahead and do it. You know, you're not respecting the people. Our right to privacy, our right to be informed. You know, it's the law. You're breaking the law essentially. And you know that.
I am not.
Well, by trying to push these documents that aren't ratified by the people, you know, because they go against what's in the Constitution.
Can I respond?
I'm not done, sir. We should have made changes in the Constitution because our election act has to follow our Constitution, not just our free law. And we didn't do that process. We're not following our own laws.
Go ahead and finish, because I want to hear myself.
Yeah.
You only have a thing, a couple of
Yeah,
minutes.
no, I'm just asking.
You can answer a question that I appreciate.
Okay.
So the reason why one feather is used in ratification votes when it is to increase everybody's access, to make it easy. The rationale behind using one feather in any event is to make sure that people have more access to information and have better access to information. You don't have to use one feather. You don't have to register for one feather. They're still doing in-person votes. There's a number of other ways to cast ballots. The intention was just to increase access.
Okay, so why are you taking out mail-in ballots? That's kind of a guarantee that people, I don't think you did.
Did anyone receive a mail-in ballot?
On this vote,
I think you
did
just have to
get
address
an
it.
envelope?
That's your constitution.
Did you get an envelope saying, when you agree to this?
Are we on? This is what happens every time, Saskatoon, Edmonton, by the same people.
Well, we can get a mail-in ballot mailed from wherever we live. We don't have to spend $900 trying to go there.
Wait a minute, so please
The
stop.
bottom line is this, if you want to vote, vote. If you don't want to use electronic voting, don't. If you don't want to give your information up, don't. That's your right.
But we didn't pass, as a people, as a group, we didn't pass these changes to the election
Nothing
act.
in the act.
You have to change that before you enforce them.
Nothing in the act talks about you can't use electronic voting or you can. In the election, and this is not an election, this is a ratification. If you guys want to appeal it, which you guys probably will, and hold up everybody getting that money, that's your choice.
The blame's
People
not on
are here
us.
to vote.
You did it wrong. You're holding it up.
And we know that.
Stop. Wait a minute, please stop. Could you use some, close the comment, please, Ms. Ennis, if she or you're done? Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
I'd like to question, sir, do you believe this is a legal, we're doing this by the law, by our law?
Sorry, actually, she had her hand up before.
No, I think,
However, I just, in regards to one feather, I haven't voted yet. But, Julie is bringing up the fact that they asked for addresses. I just wanna know what's the difference then if we're running for council and councilors or people who are nominated, they ask for lists with addresses on it. What is the difference between that list and voting with one feather? For me, I don't really see a difference, so if people are gonna ask for, those those whatever those mail lists, I feel offended that somebody wants to know my address too. So of course I have to request it, and nobody's gonna see, it's not given to a bunch of people. Like I know one feller's not gonna give my address to everybody in the reserve on a list. So I feel some kind of comfort that, they're doing it. And not just because I'm sitting on council and because I have to support it, but that's my opinion, because I don't want lists of my addresses of the whole reserve. I don't want my address up there like that. So I feel a little safe that they're doing it, and I know that they're not going to give out a big list of everyone's address in the reserve. I don't give my consent. I don't give my consent either. When the list is given at nomination time. So what's the difference?
They didn't give us addresses at this last election. All they used was the names.
Thank you for
But
your
usually
comment.
you have to request.
Thank you for your comment. So just coming back on Katrina's comment, I'm not sure who's going to make a comment about her question, I think.
Was there a question?
Yeah, no, there's a comment. Okay, that's fine. Next one on the line here is Fort Ennis at the back, so right now it's board deputies. Just a couple of minutes there, Cory, because we want to give time to the other governments to ask questions.
Regarding leadership's comments with regards to that we're holding up the process, if it was properly researched as per the Constitution to amend the Election Act, it should have been done first. This way it would have been unquestionable. The electronic vote is not accepted as per the Election Act, as per the Constitution. He's making his own laws. Sorry, I take it back. They are making their own laws as they go. They're going against the Constitution. They're going against their oaths of office. I don't see how that is right. They are rushing these proceedings. They're rushing it through today. As I understand, in Saskatoon and in Edmonton, you had mentioned in your presentation, you were missing a page from your documents that were mailed out. You mentioned that twice. So I'm just curious as to these documents right here today. Did you add the missing page?
I don't know.
Okay, it's like
I said I had the number wrong.
Yeah. Can you amend it?
But I've already told you that it's 11.1A, not 11.1C.
Okay. Was it amended?
No, I didn't change anything.
Okay.
That's the problem, is I forgot to change it. But it's just a reference to a clause, it's like halfway down the page.
Okay. And again, as per the Constitution, it's an illegal vote. Except using the electronic, it's illegal, right? Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Lena Vegas. Regarding 155.4 million that is given to the bank, if that 155 million is given to the people, why is Chief and Council only giving the people 25 grand when it should be 100% payout per person, per child, not put into a trust where they can dip their hands into, like all the other trusts they did that went missing? My daughter is now 19, she still not have this is her 18 money for the TLE that we received back in 2003. Where's that money?
So, with respect to the first part of the question, which I can't answer, in my view, it's shared by most folks who know who practice in this area, That representation warranty, that clause 11.1A, is what prevents a full PC. Now, that is always a hot button issue in these meetings, but that's what the agreement says, and it's a representation warranty that is legally binding. In terms of putting the money into a trust, the idea is that the nation and your leadership have an obligation to ensure that these funds work in what their view of the best interest of the nation. Now, what that means is not the snapshot in time of people who are alive today, or just the people in this room. It's considering future generations and your grandkids, or their grandkids, or those kids. It's to create that long-term sustainable source of revenue. So that it isn't just a few $1,000s paid out once to everybody, and then there's nothing except the next claim again. That is the decision that has to be calibrated when settling anything. So I hope that answers the parts of your question I can answer.
It still doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, and Canada will have, that's what I'm saying, it's section 11.1A. You're legally representing and warranting that, basically, this will be used for the long-term interest of the nation.
Yeah, but are we as a people going to see that money when our grandchildren turn 18? Is it going to be really there?
You should.
I don't think so.
Every other one of these I've ever worked on, and some were set up in the early 2000s, some are doing this.
Oh, it's going to be, just putting the trust, it should be the parents' responsibility to make up the trust, not the leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, I appreciate it. So now I'll turn it over to Harrison here, he's going to give a historical perspective. Go ahead.
It's always good, of course, Mr. Monster, I'm sure we both have different views on that, but Copy están orfanados y no aquí María. Now that's just me. Woman, Danny woman, why are we here today? Why Plows and Plows? Vamos sobre los tipos que llamamos Scotoma. Well, it goes back to my family. And I can honestly say that my family, I am the last Thunderchild, the original one. Many carry the name Thunderchild, but I am the last original blood. No está bueno, man. No me son para no pasar a huevo ni a pasar a huevo. Como cuando un mundo es un miau. Muy ese de aquí. That so many so it in 1908. And must not see no screen at the Dalmas. Pero algo para mí, mata putazo. There was only supposed to be one vote. The people voted no, we're not going to sell. Church got involved. Brought the Dalmas to sell. They voted second time, not that way I get to they come out of the vote. Second time it didn't pass. And then the government stepped in. So now it's a hard they put money in front. And got the big well right there. Well, I'm scared that they're going to keep going. He's so low. Because I was similar, I was single. They're going to keep going until they get what they want. So we drew a line in the middle of the room. There! We need our young people. I'm not going to disclose the name. You go buy that book called Outside the Woman Cry. It will identify that man who's telling the people to sell. I'm kind of more than Jack Funky. But you go buy that book and they'll identify the people and they had a vote. And get this. There was no women representation. All the ladies were told to stand outside the building. That book is called what now?
Outside the Woman Cry.
Outside the Woman Cry. They cried because they knew they were going to lose the land. And it happened. This is why we're sitting here. This is not about you and whatever dollars we get out of it, all of it or whatever. How about the future of this reservation? If we take all of that money, our reserve will disappeared, then what are you going to fight about? My concern is the future of my grandchildren. East Alamin, it's Samoa, it's Apanoa. Pick that way. How long is 48,000 going to last? Not even 3 weeks. Brand new truck. Well, you'll be back at the bandman asking the council if I keep them hiding, so now. Question to make them up. That is why Plows and Plows is here. They're going to say something. They didn't determine the damage or loss based on the price of a cow or a plow. They based it on the loss of modern implements, modern machinery. How much would these people have gained? How much would they have needed? Machinery. That's how we arrived at 155 million. And that's where, when we went to Ottawa, they said a lot more than what's being said here. And if you don't believe me, I know people have a hard time. I hear a lot of this. I heard. Well, Chief, Delbert, he didn't know this, but when we were negotiating to have hearing aids, I put a microphone right in the middle of the table as a negotiating table. Guess what? I have it all on recording. And all the traditional players were identified, but for my own use so I could hear. So there's some aspects of it. There's a lot of names. We stay here before now, and I'm spoke on that. And we talked about the existing cows and plows claims right through this country. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was ever hidden. It's like we throw garbage in the snow in the winter and in the spring. We see what's up. That's how it is with our lives in that. We may try to be secretive a little bit, but it comes out. And that is why I was asked to speak here. You heard, you sat with your dad. And the old people, they told you what happened. The history of this first connection, it was surprising. My wife and I have been married for 50 years. And some of the families sitting in this van, in our van, we're not even living on the resort. We know who was here. Some of you guys weren't even band members. That's how far I can look back and say with certainty. I know I sit on a membership committee, and I have access to all of that membership lists throughout this reservation, this province. You cannot lie to us. And what? Well, my closing Plows, it's a one-time thing I did to Israel. I said, no. I am not going to be allowed to be around for the second negotiation. 20 to 25 years is a long time to wait. And they will make you wait. He controls the pace and the show. It's a leader that gives power and makes us an asshole to now. Hi.
Thank you very much. I think we might have time for one quick question. Because supper is here at the Food Dog 5. We'll take one quick question. Anybody has? Oh, okay. Sorry, we're going to move to the next request right away because we've done anything else to do.
Yeah, so
Okay, we're going to move over. All right, go ahead. Do your presentation on the legacy first.
Hello.
Okay, thanks everyone. So the point of my presentation is to just briefly run through the structure of this legacy trust, just to help explain kind of how it works and how it's intended to protect future generations. Before we get into that, my name is Blair Mahan. I'm an associate with Maurice Law. I've been with the firm for about 4 years now, and I work almost exclusively on these trusts. So I work closely with the council and Ron Maurice and basically everybody else that was involved in terms of setting up this trust fund. that really has been the brainchild of Greece law since, Ron has been settling claims since the early 2000s. We've been involved in a number of claim settlements over that time, and we've seen what works and what doesn't work in terms of setting up these funds and finding out really the best way to make sure that the monies are used for the benefit of the community. Now, the one question that we do often get whenever we're settling these claims is why do we not do 100% per capita distribution? And as Steve was saying, the position that we take when we're looking at claim settlements is that we want to treat the compensation as if it was a treaty right itself, which means you want to make sure that it's preserved and protected and that it grows so that there's something left for future generations. If you were to do 100% per capita distribution, or if you weren't to put the monies into trust, the issue is those monies get spent in, Lloydminster, North Battleford, Saskatoon, but it doesn't take very long until 155 million disappears. And so that's not good. It leaves the First Nation with nothing. So what we've done is we've come up with a structure that tries to balance the needs of current and future generations. So like I was saying, the main goal is to make sure we preserve and protect, keep growing it for the benefit of the future. But we also do need to be mindful of the fact that there are priorities that need funding today. So everything from per capita distributions, housing, education, programs and services for members. Those are also priorities that need to be funded in addition to keeping in mind the benefit of the future. So what this trust does is it basically is designed to receive claim settlement monies, existing trust monies. Any type of monies that the First Nation has can be put into this trust. And then once they're put into this trust, they're completely locked away and they're overseen by an independent corporate trustee. So one of the most important things to emphasize is that under this trust model, no council, present or future, can access the trust capital. So the 155 million is completely locked away, nobody can get at it. Once the monies are in that trust, they're invested by elite level investment management people. So if you're talking about, $155 million, that's when you can start getting access to the same type of people that do investments for, pension funds, university endowments, and other large-scale investors. So just for easy numbers, if you're looking at that egg up there, let's just say for easy numbers it was $100 million. A balanced investment portfolio since the 1960s has averaged a return of about 7 to 9%. So if you can get those kinds of returns that we've seen historically, your 100 million in year one, if you invest it and get an 8% return, in year two it's 108, in year three it's 116, 124, and so on and so forth. So by investing the monies with good investment managers who don't expose your portfolio to excessive risk, that's where you can really get that long-term growth at the high level. Now, for anyone who is familiar with compounding interest, it's not uncommon for after 20 to 25 years to see funds like this double, and that's even at a lower rate of return. So what we want to do with this trust is put in a structure in place today, so that 25 years from now, one generation, people will look back at this claim and say, the First Nation, we got 155 from Canada back in 2024, but looking back at it in the year 2050, now it's over double. So now there might be 350, 400, $500 million in this trust. That's the goal that we're trying to achieve by taking away all of the principal, locking it away, and investing it, and making sure nobody has access to it. Now, like I said, obviously there are priorities, including the per capita distribution, other programs and services that can be funded for members today. So what the trust does is it allows you to borrow against your trust capital. And so under this trust, it's set at 60%. So again, just for easy numbers, if you have $100 million in this trust, the First Nation would be able to access a loan of $60 million. Now, because we're talking about 150, the loan will be closer to about $193 million. But that loan will be what's used to basically fund the PCE and then to do all of the nation's other priorities, over the next coming years. Now, obviously, whenever you have a loan, you need to make loan payments. So what the trust is designed to do is it spits out an annual payment every year. It's 5.5% for the first 5 years, and then after 5 years, it gets reduced to 4%. And that annual payment is used predominantly to service the authorized loan. So it makes sure that the loan is completely covered and the First Nation itself is never directly responsible. So there would never be a situation where you set up this loan and then the bank comes and says, you got to pull out money from education or like elder support or anything like that to pay off this loan. Everything is completely covered by the trust. Now, the reason this makes sense is, like I was saying, if you're investing your money and getting an 8% return, and you're only paying out 4%, that's how you balance the needs of current and future generations. Because 4% is staying in the trust to get you your long-term growth, and then 4% of it is basically being used to give you access to financing today. So that's really where we're able to strike the balance between the needs of current and future generations. Now, under this trust, one of the things you will have seen in the information packages is that there's also a revenue account law, and the intention there is to put in a framework to tell the City Council how the monies can and can't be spent. So there are certain permitted uses that are explicitly listed in that revenue account law. So that's things like housing, education, purchasing land, community services, elder support, really any kind of programs and services that are for the benefit of the First Nation can be used with these authorized loan monies and give them the annual payment. Within this revenue account law, there's also a requirement that the council produce an annual plan and budget. So the idea there is that every year the council, in consultation with its advisors, the finance department, all of those people, they're going to start putting together a plan that says, we're going to need $3 million for housing this year, $2 million for kids sports, and so on and so forth. They're going to put together an annual plan and budget, and then that's going to be available to all members to see, what is the plan for the upcoming year. And then there's also an audit requirement in there that says any monies that are paid from this revenue account, they need to be audited. So the whole idea there would be that whoever's taking care of the First Nations general audit would look at the revenue account, and they would say, we received this much money from the trust, this is where it went to, and then members have that level of accountability. So the whole idea with this trust and the revenue account law is what we're trying to do is come up with a legal framework really of the First Nation's own design, so that the First Nation can start, advancing all of the priorities that historically haven't had funding. From our perspective, it is a really exciting opportunity where, we've settled this claim, we're able to grow it for the benefit of the future and, fund the programs that need funding today. So it really is it's a sleek model. It's worked out great for a lot of our clients that, have settled claims over the past 10 to 15 years. And we're really excited about it. We think this is the best way to use this $155 million. So that's kind of the high level overview. Like Steve was saying, we do got to kick off, but I'm happy to answer any questions from members.
Anybody has any questions, just raise your hand and we'll send the microphone over there.
Thank you. If this gets ratified with $155 million, how much can Thunderchild use to pay off the abandonment?
Under this trust, so the key restriction in it is really two. There's 60%. So that's basically absolute most you could potentially do about $90 million. Now it's not that high right now because the interest rates are higher. There's also a restriction in terms of the amount that you can borrow that says you can't use more than 90% of that annual payment to service off your loan. But basically the key restriction in this trust is that it's 60% of the value, which would be $90 million. But the way that the PCD has been determined is taking into account the fact that we need to do that for capital distribution to members now. But there are other urgent priorities that need funding. So that's where those money will start to be allocated over the next 4 months.
And how much is that?
How much is the per capita distribution? How many members was it? Yeah, let me just take it. One thing we can also, that is important to point out is that all the payments, all the PCBs to minors are held in trust until they turn 18, and minors receive 4% every single year on there. So somebody who turns 18 who is only going to receive basically the $20,000. But somebody who's 1 year old, by the time they turn 18, it's basically going to double, so they'll be receiving about 40 grand. But in terms of your question, a $25,000 PCB times, I'm sorry, how many adults? 2,100 is about $52 million. Oh, it's 3,100? Sorry, let me change that. Yeah, so that's $77 million. And so when you think about that in the context of a $55 million or $155 million claim settlement, it's almost like half of the money is going to be distributed to members, and then half of it is still like, I mean, the full amount is going to be in there, but the current membership is only getting access to half of the money. So that's where, again, we're trying to think about the benefit of current and future generations.
And what are the restrictions of the legacy trust? I'm not saying this chief and council, but future chief and council. What's the limitation that they have to access to legacy trust?
Yeah, so nobody can access trust capital. Like nobody can get into the egg at the top. That's completely locked away, and that's where you have an independent corporate trustee who's responsible for overseeing it. Any future chief and council, the only money that they get access to is the authorized loan or the annual payment. So basically, like they can only live off the interest. That's the only money they can receive. And then if for whatever reason somehow it was broken into the trust capital, that's where the First Nation is able to sue your independent corporate trustee. So you know if money went missing and somebody's reached into the trust, the First Nation would just be able to sue, CIBC Trust, whoever's the trustee of that, and they would indemnify the First Nation. So that's why this model is a little bit different than when you had boards of community trustees. Because if any money went missing when there was a panel of like 5 community members, you can't get blood from the stone, right? So you can't really recover anything. When you're dealing with the major Canadian banks, obviously they have like trillions of dollars of assets, billions of dollars of assets. So if anything does go wrong, they have reputational risk at stake, they've got deep pockets, they indemnify the First Nation, money goes back into the trust.
Thank you, Secretary. Good afternoon again, sir. So the Legacy Trust, there's $155.4 million that what we're going to get out of this agreement. And you mentioned, the trustee on Friday mentioned in Saskatoon that this new Legacy Trust will be used to pay off the old debts for the old trust, correct?
Yeah, it is going to be consolidated. So the whole idea.
Sorry, so what I'm saying is that money's going to come right off the top.
No, what will happen is all the existing trust monies will end up in this pool. So it'll end up being higher than 155, depending on what all the existing amounts are in those other trusts. Everything is going to end up in there, and then that's going to be how you determine how much you can borrow and how much you pay out annually.
Okay, so the Legacy Trust as it stands, this is the trust that $40 million that they were talking about earlier for Stony Knoll, that money will be put in there as well. Right? Because that's what you put the Legacy Trust, right? Any money that we get is going to be going into there.
Any money you want, you can put it. It's not automatic.
Okay, so is that choice up to the people, the beneficiaries? Because all of these trusts, listed members of Thunderchild beneficiaries, and I'm sorry, I have so many questions because we've never had an audit, we've never had any information on our trust investment.
No, and again, I can even take a call and have further discussion about this with you. We do have to have a question. But to answer the question, this is a vessel that you can put things into when you want to. So if there was another claim for Stony Knoll that ever got settled, it would have to be ratified, it would have to go through the whole process. And and you can elect where you're gonna put it. That would be an option.
From what I understand in the documentation, it says any money that comes in is going to be put in here.
So to clarify that, that is not what happens. This can accept any, there's no automatic.
So they could actually make another trust for that money.
Sure, you can do whatever you want at that time when that happens, but that's not happening.
But doesn't our new trust law say
No.
that any...
There's not an automatic, should be. I can't answer the question another way. It's not an automatic thing. It can accept any money, but you don't have to put it.
Thank you for clarifying that.
We are going to have to roll, folks. It has been a pleasure. Thanks very much for having us at the Nation today.
Excuse me, do we have enough time for another question?
Just doesn't take us. Most of the young people Gee, is it good to go or not yet?
I'd like to talk to leadership to address these old trucks. I have questions. I'm pretty sure a lot of people here would like to hear the answer.
Go ahead, ask your question. Go ahead.
It's addressing these individuals as well. Are you so kind as to please? We greatly appreciate that.
Then pay off and you can have the way is that correct or something? What's that for? Go ahead.
Okay, so it was stated in Saskatoon that the financials weren't submitted for years to come. I have a copy of actually a Thunderchild 1908 financial statements dated December the 31st, 2021. Can you explain to me what a promissory note is? I'd like the definition, I'd like the advantages of what promissory notes are, and the disadvantages of what promissory notes are. If you can enlighten us, thank you.
You can call us too. We can walk you through that whole thing. We have to take time. We can't just this way. I'm sorry. You got our contact information. You can call me anytime.
Is our first trustee going to be doing a presentation today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Safe travel.
Safe travel.
Thank you for your comment.